carpet here. Hi, everybody. We're going full screen. All right. Nice to have you with us. Good evening from Taiwan. I'm MJ. And this is Late Night with MJ Klein, obviously. I want to do something just because I haven't done this for a long time, you know, in a live situation. But, oh, I got to check. Hang on. I got to do this. Yeah, I got to turn this down. Dave, we're live. Hey, Bernardo. Hi, Dave. How you guys doing? Sorry, you know what I wanted to do was I wanted to go to YouTube and to make sure that I wouldn't, like, miss my comments. So, Bernardo, nice to see you. All right. Always a pleasure, you guys. Thanks so much for joining. I appreciate it. Yeah, okay. So, all right, I'm going to turn this down. So, actually, you know, we look really good on YouTube. We are using Restream.io, and we are simultaneously broadcasting now on 4 platforms. We're broadcasting on Periscope, we're broadcasting on YouTube, of course, and also Africa TV and Twitch, all in 720, glorious 720p. So there you go. And boy, looks good. Looks good. So sitting over here by the console. Is Betty in? Betty. Oh yes. Actually, Betty was the first comment. Betty, you got the podium, the first one. So how you guys doing? All right. So glad you could join. I've been really busy, and I have been working on some new tunes. I'm not exactly Africa, not Africa the continent, but Africa. It is a South Korean platform. Yeah, so yeah, South Korean platform. Sorry, you know, it's easier for me. I'm getting old. It's easier for me to see this. It's a larger format. But yeah, it actually looks really good. I'm surprised. The quality is just amazing. Africa, almost none. Almost none. It's just basically, it's, you know, it's the monitor in the bus station for me. You know what I mean? But I have a great love for Korea. The Korean language, I mean, you know, and Korean people, so yeah, that's what I do. But yeah. Now the cool thing is, right, I'm watching myself on the tablet. It's, wow, I should just like look at this. More eating scopes, yeah, that's true. For Africa, yeah, exactly. But I don't know if I want to get into that. You know, this could be like I don't know, the Gluttony channel. Now I'm logged into my YouTube account and my personal account, so I'm going to say hello as MJ Klein because I can, and I want to see it pop up. It'd be interesting. So there you go. And hello, that's me, MJ Klein. Interesting. It doesn't put my face on everything, so. But eating scopes would be cool, definitely. Anyway, as you guys know, we have a line group. Let me talk about this a little bit. If you go to taiwanlive.tv and you use the menu and scroll down to Late Night, you'll find a Late Night group, and you can join us on the Line app. Line is an amazing app. It does everything that all the other apps, you know, like WhatsApp and Telegram and all those, all put together. You know, and it's kind of like a private Facebook amongst people that have, you know, mobile phones. And it's a line group that you know, that I created for fans and friends of what I do, and I'm very blessed to have, you know, the greatest followers, I think. And anyway, so if you scroll down, you'll find a QR code, and if you have the Line app on your mobile device, just scan it, pow, you're in the Line group, and you'll have access to all your favorite live streamers. Now, on the other hand, over here is my sponsor, ivideo.com.tw, and for those of you viewing on YouTube, or you would like to look later on YouTube, in the description is a URL and a 10% discount code. They're really happy with me. They're actually sending me a new device to next week. to review. They have a 300 megabit download, 50 megabit upload home Wi-Fi router that operates off of the SIM card. And so that's really great because if you're visiting Taiwan or any foreign country, but you're going to be there for a while, but maybe you don't have like residency, maybe you're just a guest, you're on a visitor's visa, and you can't go down to your local telecom company and fill out an application and get, you know, a contract for internet service. That's a way to do it, and you just do it online, and then you pick it up at the airport, and you drop it off on your way back. Couldn't be simpler. When I went to America in 2017 to see Dr. Sears at the Sears Institute, iVideo.com arranged for me a Wi-Fi box. It was incredible, and for those of you who remember those, that time, the live streams that I did were just, I mean, the quality was incredible. And when I got back to the airport in Taipei, I went over to Pelican and dropped it off. Wasn't even a wait. Just signed my name, done. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. So anyway, I want to do a shout out to my sponsors. They've been very good to me, and I really appreciate it. Now, about the line group. Of course, all the live streamers are there, and so we all know each other, you know, from way back. All the live streamers that you guys know and love, we pretty much know each other. A lot of us know each other personally, or at least know each other by reputation. So it was good. Thank you, Betty. It was fun. And going from the airport and stuff, you know, with a gimbal. I bring my gimbal everywhere when I travel. So, but anyway, Dave and Osaka and I, you know, Dave and I, we run stuff by each other a lot. It's pretty amazing, actually, how much we communicate about things. And it was Dave's idea, really, for me to come on tonight and talk about a couple of things. We're not going to talk about music, even though I'm in my home studio. I do have some new tracks, and I'm writing a new tune, and I think it's going to be one of my best ones. Hey, Mike, how you doing? Nice to have you with us. Nice to see you. Thank you. And I'm looking down on my tablet. Just want to make sure I don't miss any comments, because you know when we did the music before, when I was on the digital recorder over there and I was playing back tracks, I missed a lot of comments. I'm sorry. Gallardo, how you doing? Nice to have you with us. Nice to see you. I really appreciate you guys joining. Thanks so much. We got a nice crowd tonight. It's great. So, believe it or not, you see the title, and at this moment, the camping trip was great. No, we came back. Actually, we came back last week. It was fun. It was relaxing, and we went over to the hot springs. You guys saw that. We had an hour and a half in the hot springs, and it really wasn't that expensive. It was like $50 or something, you know. And all three of us jumped in the hot springs. Kind of interesting. So, no, thank you. I appreciate that. That was fun. A couple of years ago, if I can digress, a couple of years ago, back when I used to use Periscope exclusively, I did some really long scopes from campsites. We're up over 3,000 feet, actually. No, I'm sorry, we're over 3,000 meters high. We're way up. And I don't know. We're up high. I don't remember how high. We're up high. And I used my mobile phone clamp and actually showed cooking in the Dutch oven. That was a lot of fun. I didn't do that this time. I was too preoccupied. Anyway, at some point in the future, I would like to do that again. But there have been so many demands on me, but I would like to do that. So I did. From the roof of my house. Again, that was back when I used to do Periscope, you know, exclusively, and yeah, I did the ISS actually a couple of times. Fun times. We can do those fun times again. The International Space Station is still up there. We can do those again if you want. Now, boy, looking on YouTube, the quality is really good. I've got my studio lights on. They're pointed towards the ceiling, and they're, you know, filling the room with this nice soft indirect light. And we see Reaper in the background. It's a DAW that I'm working with recently, and yeah, we'll talk about all this stuff another time. Integrating the Soundcraft Ghost and so forth into the workflow for recording. But tonight, you saw the title. And Bigfoot, you either believe or you don't. It's kind of like many other things in life, you know, you believe or you don't. I'm a believer. I have a good reason to be a believer because I had an encounter with Bigfoot. Now, I can't say it was a sighting. It was an encounter. So, yeah, I don't know why. Thanks, Mike. I don't know why. I had a great signal, and I used the, the Wi-Fi box. But, the thing about camping is it isn't remote places. But when I went on the hike, remember, I took my Wi-Fi box with me. We went on the hike, and that was fine. When we walked down that road to the, yeah. Hey, CJ, nice to have you with us. Nice to see you. When we walked down that road and, went to the hot springs, it was cool. CJ, always a pleasure, man. CJ showed me a couple of shots last night because I have him on my line group. I have him online too because he's a local. And he showed me a couple of pictures of his drum kit. He's got 8 toms, 4 racks, and 4 floors. He's got so many floor toms, right? That he goes, right? That's the 4 racks. And he's got 4 more. Then it's, but the 4th one, it's so far around, he's got it on the other side. Boom. Yeah. Interesting snare drum, too. Cool cymbals. It's great. It's a nice black kit, man. It looks mean, but it looks cool. So I'm looking forward to getting together with CJ sometime. We can, yeah. Bigfoot is mountainside? Really? Okay. All right. Whatever we're talking about music, okay, we're good. Okay. We're going to talk about Bigfoot. CJ, I have in the past talked many times. They are underrated. Hey, Casper, nice to see you. And I saw your bike scope, and I left some comments. You couldn't see it, but yeah. Casper, all I gotta say, man, Streamlabs is it. And YouTube has an ingest URL and a stream key, for everybody. So, yeah, that's the way to go. And you can burn the comments. It makes big sense. By the way, guys, I want to tell you something. Casper is the only person so far that's been up here in the studio. When Casper was in Taiwan a few weeks ago, he, hey Bella, how you doing? Nice to have you with us. All right, always a pleasure to see you. Casper came up here and we played tracks and hung out, and it was like 2 hours or something. Goofed around with the Brian May guitar up there and stuff. It was fun. So anyway, I have interviewed a number of people in Taiwan about Bigfoot, and I'm under the impression that Bigfoot doesn't exist in Taiwan. I've never had anyone ever, the long-termers, I've asked them, you ever heard anything about Bigfoot stories in Taiwan? No, never, because it's isolated. It's an island, so raining New York City, yeah, it's been raining here like crazy. Of course, there is a word for Bigfoot, in Chinese. You can literally say, big foot in Chinese, but that's not the word. They call it the yerang, which means the wild man. And the funny thing is, in China, if you say you saw, a wild man, people won't laugh at you. A lot of people will say, oh, cool. They have wild man crossings, and they're marked on the road. They take it seriously. It's not a joke. They believe it exists. Now, China's a big country. It's as big as the United States. There's 1 billion people there, and so it's a huge piece of land with extremely varied topography. It makes sense that if there was, some kind of a primate distributed around the world, that it would be there too. And so, yeah, but, and Taiwanese, too, are really tolerant. See, you go to America and talk about Bigfoot. Oh, sorry. This in Asia means you're crazy. But you guys don't matter. But, okay, so in the Western world, they go like this. It's like, it's time for the tinfoil hat. You can't talk about Bigfoot, usually, to people in a Western country. If you're in the United States, you start talking about Bigfoot, they're like, ooh, okay, I tell you what, I think I got to go now. You can have this conversation in Chinese with people, and they take it seriously. Don't think you're nuts. They've heard things. And my earliest dealings as a young person with Korean people, it was the same thing. I found out that an elderly Korean man that I knew the word Yeti. That blew my mind. I said Yeti. And he knew what I was talking about. And he didn't laugh or anything. He said, oh, yeah. They exist. And I was like, whoa. Anyway, when I was young, I'm talking about 19 years old, so. That's interesting. So, CJ's being quiet. CJ's, well, there he is. CJ's Taiwanese. But but CJ, am I right? I mean, yeah, nobody will make fun of you if you say, you know, that you saw the Yater thing, you know what I mean? And even Finding Bigfoot, the TV show, went to China, and they took them seriously. They didn't try to laugh them off or anything. All right, so anyway, I was 19 years old, and I was in North Carolina, and I was working in a cotton mill. They're gone now. Actually, I was working in Cone Mill, C-O-N-E, Cone Industries. They're gone now. It's all gone. And I worked in the weaving plant where they had like 1,000 weave looms. Okay, that's cool. And it's like, you know, you couldn't even see the other end of the building because of the fog. It had its own weather inside the building. Maybe even more than 1,000, I don't remember. And you had to wear hearing protection because the shuttle's going back and forth. It's really loud. Anyway, lunch break, you know, you have all kinds of people, lots of country folk, and, you know, North Carolina people are nice. And, you know, Coco lives there, and she'll tell you. And so we get to talk about stuff, and it turns out that some of the people in the, somebody please block that bot. I can't stand that. Some of the people, we're talking about Bigfoot and things, and I started to hear stories about, yeah, okay. Mike, thank you. We can't do every show about music. Actually, you know, I've been thinking about starting another channel just for my, you know, music projects. See, because the reason you guys don't really know who I am is because everything I did was before the internet, you know, really existed. And so unless somebody goes back and decides to write a Wikipedia page about me, which is unlikely, although I qualify for one, you know, I mean, there's kids in their bedroom using a computer DAW that are better known than me for music, but I've been considering doing a separate YouTube channel just to kind of segregate that. I don't know. We got big plans. I'm going to talk about that later. It's another show, but I appreciate it, Mike. Thank you. I want to talk about Bigfoot because Dave and I were talking about it. And what happened was an emerging story came out. I would talk to one person, another person, another person. And, you know, we worked at this factory, so generally people lived, like, not that far away, you know what I mean? So it's like, you talk to one person, you know where that place is? Yeah, it's down the street from my house, because they live over there, too. It turned out that there was an area. Now, it's so long ago, I don't remember, I couldn't tell you. But at that time, being familiar with the area, I was hearing about this, where people said that a guy told me, he said, if you want to get a lounge chair and crack a beer at 8 o'clock at night, Bigfoot will walk by. Hey, how you doing? They were telling me that there was like a regular game trail where anybody who set themselves up at that spot would have some kind of an encounter with the local Bigfoot who lived there. It was his territory. And apparently, because it wasn't that far from the city, they weren't that worried about interactions with human beings. Now, this is an interesting part of the story because a lot of times you'll hear that, you know, people will say that Bigfoot, you know, is elusive and he wants to stay away from the, you know, from the cities and things, right? But yeah, it is a great culture. CJ, I'm not going to comment on that, okay? But look, man, don't make me block you, okay? Fist bump. I'm not punching him, fist bump. So, you know, the thing is though, I mean, you could say the same thing about foxes and coyotes and so forth. So, no, this would be before the era of digital photography. I'm talking, you know, the 70s. I'm talking like 76, you know, back in that time. 75, 76, 76. You know, and you can find coyotes in the city, right? You can find foxes and wolves in the city too. They adapt. And no doubt that, you know, there are Bigfoots. I don't want to say big feet. There are these primates that must live near cities or at least settlements or villages, right? And so, yeah. No, I understand. But the thing is, excuse me, the impression that I got from the people, which I'll get into in a minute, was that it wasn't like a big deal. I mean, there's an old joke, I'll tell you, okay? It's kind of like this. There's an old joke. There's a guy driving down the street, and his car conks out. He doesn't know what's going on, so yes. Comments burned to the stream, man. That's one way to go. And it's because the Streamlamp has burned everything, all the 4 platforms. So the guy, his car conks out, and he runs around the front. He doesn't know anything about cars, so he opens up the hood, and he's looking in. I'm gonna block you, pedicure. Big toenails, right? So he's opened up the hood, and he looks, you know, and he hears a voice that says, you know, check the distributor. And he looks around, there's nothing there. Yeah, so looking. Check the distributor, man. He's looked around, there's nothing there but this horse, you know. No, can't be the horse, come on. And then he's looking right at the horse, and he sees the horse mouth move, and he says, check the distributor, I'm telling you. So he says, holy cow, the wire's loose. So he pops it back in, goes around, starts the engine. It's amazing. So he can't believe this. So he goes to the, you know, to the nearest gas station, the first gas station he sees. He pulls in, and he goes, "You won't believe this, man! The most amazing thing happened. I had my car. This horse told me how to fix my car. It was incredible." So the guy's sitting there, and he says, "Are you talking about about a quarter mile back on the other side?" He says, "Yeah." "You mean that old gray horse over there?" "Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about." "You're lucky you got here at all, man. He doesn't know anything about cars." And that's kind of how it was with the Bigfoot. It was just like such a routine thing. "Yeah, I saw a Bigfoot." Which one did you see? Did you see Ralph or did you see John? I mean, seriously. And so I don't think anybody took a photo of it because they probably didn't think it was anything out of the ordinary. This is the impression that I got. Now, I started asking questions. So, Matthew, thank you so much. And thank you for joining us on the line group. You're too quiet. We need some more commentary from you. But thanks, Matthew. One of my longtime and very loyal followers I appreciate very much. So, I started asking about, so when do you think he's going to be there? You know, we always say he, but Bigfoot. You know, when do you think I can see this Bigfoot? And then a couple people started coming up to me. And I remember one lady in particular, she said, "You leave that thing alone." "I'm sorry? I heard you talking about that Bigfoot. You leave that thing alone. Don't go bothering that thing." The people were protective. It was their Bigfoot in their neighborhood. They didn't want somebody from in the city, and I lived in the city. I lived in Greensboro. They didn't want anybody in the city going out to the country and bothering their Bigfoot. Well, I appreciate that, you know. And like Mike said, you know, the basic culture of country folk is really good. I've been helped many times by friendly country folk. They don't care what you look like. They don't care where you're from. They just care, you know, are you a good person? And if you're in trouble, they'll help you. So, anyway, I disregarded that. And I said, I'm going to go look for this thing, right? Really? That's interesting. You mean the Indian man saw? Hey, Eric, how you doing? The Indian man saw the Bigfoot. Is that what you're saying? So, oh, okay, interesting, interesting. Eric, you've been AWOL for a long time. How you doing? Okay. Can I talk about loud music and hearing loss? I guess. I mean, I'm not an expert on it. But okay, I'll take a little side, you know, bar on this. But the oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, Bella, they called him Bigfoot. Okay, that's interesting. Thank you. If you got earbuds in and you're turning them up louder than the subway or whatever you're listening to, you're doing ear damage. And the fact that it's also like in the ear, there's a lot of sound pressure level, but also air pressure. And yeah, what happens is it damages the nerves, and you can recover from it, but only to a certain amount of time. So yeah, well, Brian Johnson from AC/DC, the reason he retired was because of that. The doctors told him one more tour and you're deaf. Of course, they're using the little in-ear monitors, which I've never used and I don't think I ever will. I like the wedge monitors, and all those years, the reason I have any hearing at all, and you know what? I thought my hearing was damaged more than what it was, but recently doing these recordings, I realized I got a lot of high end left. Because all those years I did those shows, I wore earplugs. In my 20s and my 30s, I always wore earplugs. Where my hearing damage came from was the Yamaha NS10 studio monitor. That's where it came from. 500 mixes, 50 albums, that's where it came from. So, headphones are bad for you. Yes, they are. You should always adjust the volume to the minimum level. Minimum, not maximum, minimum. There's a YouTube interview. Look it up. David Letterman, Pete Townsend, where Pete Townsend talks about tinnitus with Dave Letterman. It's really interesting. All right, now, back to the story. I decided I was going to go, and I took some people with me. And on the night in question, it was actually very, very nice weather. It was during the fall, as I recall, because it was a little bit chilly, and we went to the trail. I was able to find somebody who actually gave me very good, a very good description as to where it was. Mike, I'm doing great. Thank you. Nice to see you. Fist bump to you, too. Thanks so much for joining. We have such a great group tonight. This is fantastic. Gosh, I should have done some of my I should have shown some of my new tracks tonight. Instead, I'm just yakking about Bigfoot and some other stuff. But you don't want to miss what's coming up next, because I had my very own individual personal time slip this week. And for those of you who know me and have met me in person, you know that I don't freak out easily. You know that I'm not easily fooled or easily duped. But yeah, no, it's an incredible topic, Mike, and there are a number of YouTube channels dedicated to those things. Dr. Mandel is a great YouTube channel, and he talks about remedies for tinnitus, including tapping, the base of the skull and so forth, and different things. And he even has a reset the brain. He apparently has discovered a way to reboot your brain to kind of clear it out. It's pretty interesting. So, but I want to check that out. So we got this description, a very detailed description of where to sit, stand, or whatever. And I had a couple people with me. I had a drummer in my band and his girlfriend and a little kid that I was hanging out with. A friend of mine who ran a Chinese restaurant had an 8-year-old son. He's a really cool kid, and because his dad was busy, so sometimes he would come with me. We'd do things, and I'd take him to band practice or to a show or something. He really dug it. He was a cool kid, and so I had him with me. His name was Andy, and so I had Andy with me and Roy and his girlfriend, and we were, well, it was, as I recall, it was probably about 8 o'clock at night, and it was pitch black. I mean, these are the woods in North Carolina, and we had our lights with us, and we found the trail. This must be it. This looks like, there's game obviously been through here. Anybody who's been in the forest or has done any hunting or tracking or anything, you can tell a game trail. So we turned our lights out and we sat and waited, and we're kind of whispering and talking and stuff. And I gotta tell you, I mean, we smelled something. Whew. It was bad. The funny thing about smells is, with humans, is that we actually recall odors by smelling them. What I mean by this is this. Those of you who are watching right now, in your mind, imagine that you have a rose in your hand and you go like this. Now do this with me. Go like this and smell the rose. And you actually smell it, don't you? You smell the rose, don't you? You know what I'm talking about? You can smell that, even though it's not physically present. There's no other sense that we have that's like that. You can imagine something that you saw, but it doesn't form the image in your eyeball. It forms it in your brain. So it's, even though the smell is formed in your brain, it's. I think you understand what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if you smell the rose, you can, okay, cool. If you smell the rose, it blocks out everything else other than that. And there's only one other smell in the world that I've ever smelled that was worse than the Bigfoot, and it was the dumpster at the end of a road in what's the capital city of Borneo, of Malaysian Borneo? Spaced out. Anyway, at the end, anyway, I was at the, it was a dumpster, and it was terrible in Malaysian Borneo. So anyway, why can't I think about that? Because there's a mountain with that name too. Kulabatu or something, I forget. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Coca Cuckoo. Oh, now that's... Oh, that might be a Aboriginal name for it. Anyway, okay, see. Kota Kulabato or something like that. Anyway, I feel stupid now. Anyway, so yeah. This Bigfoot smell, I remember it. It was like... It was a smell of putrefaction, yet it was alive, and there was animal secretion. It was and fecal material, and people have said this before. Back then, I had really not done much research. So really, it's a really great place. If you get a chance to visit Borneo, it's a great place. It's divided, between Indonesia and Malaysia, and there's also the small nation of Brunei there. That's a fantastic place. People are really nice. Anyway, so I didn't really know at that time about, I mean, people nowadays, they say stinkfoot. Yes, it does. They don't. I've heard people say stinkfoot. Oh, you seen stinkfoot, huh? Yeah. So that later on I learned. Yeah. So we smelled this smell, and we're like, oh my word! Whoa. It's like, did you cut the cheese? Holy cow! Oh man! We don't know what's going on, and all of a sudden we hear the bushes rustling, like this. Now, one of the guys that I had talked to about Bigfoot in this place said that he wouldn't like it that we were there. And he said in the North Carolina accent, he'll probably try to run y'all off. 19-year-old kid, right? We don't care about anything. We heard a blood-curdling howl. It wasn't just a howl. It was a scream, but it was guttural. It was like it had the high end, but it had this. Oh, I don't think I've ever been so scared in my life. This smell and that noise. I don't think a person could do that. They were. They thought it was theirs, They seriously. They told me don't go messing with that thing. Well, that smell and that blood-curdling scream, it's like, anyway. Then we heard the footfalls, and they were heavy. And anybody who's ever done any hunting or tracking in the forest, you can tell a bear. You hear this boom, or like the twig snapping and stuff. Heavy footfalls, that growl, that smell, and whatever it was went past us like a freight train. It was rattling the bushes. It was pitch black. We were scared to death. We ran out of there. And I got to tell you, I didn't talk with anybody about that for a long time. Even Roy, the drummer in the band. And finally, we got together and it's like, what did you hear? Did you smell anything? Did you see anything? And we realized this thing was real, man. And I mean, whatever it was, thanks Mike. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining. Take care. Whatever it was, it wasn't anything we've ever seen or heard before. So, anyway. Now, Mike was asking, how do you these days listen to Boston? Vinyl, he says. And he said, can vinyl make a comeback? Okay, let's talk about that for a second. I actually have over here in my pile, because I don't have very many, I know you do. And, you can try to hijack the stream if you want. It's okay. I've never really owned many albums. I've never been really a music collector. I'm a music producer. I'm not really a music consumer. Currently, I have 2 CDs. One is Boston, and it's the remastered first album. And I've got Def Leppard's The Vault, which is their greatest hits album. 15 tunes. And Phoenix. My daughter loves those. The DP32 has a CD player. I pop the CD in the DP32. I take the outputs and I process it through 2 channels of the Ghost. Run it to the control room section, and down here is a monster power amp, okay? And it's connected to 2 vintage acoustic research monitors that are behind. I was going to show you over here. And so, yeah, well, everybody loves Def Leppard. They're one of the few people that have sold more than 20 copies of a single album. Boston being one of the other few too. And so sometimes, especially if I'm not feeling too good, and I will tell you guys, yesterday was a very bad day for me. I'll tell you why in a few minutes. I turn the lights out. I make all this stuff here. I turn the lights out. I crank that amp up. I shut the door. And I sit in front between these two AR monitors and just crank something, man. And makes you feel good. But Mike asked it, will vinyl make a comeback? It never went away. I just noticed, man, my hair looks like garbage. Vinyl has always had its niche, you know, niche, however you want to pronounce it. My friend Grady, who I've talked about before, his company loudandclean.com used to specialize in turntable preamplifiers. DST, Daylight Savings Time. Dean, good to have you with us. Thank you. Thanks for joining from the Midwest. In fact, this is funny, Mike. You'll like this. My friend Grady's turntable preamps were so renowned that Tom Schultz himself placed an order with Grady. Grady came to Tom Schultz's personal studio and installed them because Tom, at that time, was listening on vinyl to the old records because he wanted to do some drum track comparisons for the new album he was doing. Yeah, it's cool. I think that was for the third album, actually. Anyway, so there have always been people like our friend Henry, big into vinyl. Lots of people big into vinyl, but you know, now that we've been in the digital revolution, and now that people have been using the digital audio workstation, which incidentally I avoided for a long time. I'm an analog tape guy. I'm an analog guy. It turns out that probably, arguably, the best way to produce music these days is with an analog console connected to a digital audio workstation through an extremely high precision and expensive interface. Probably using Thunderbolt or MADI or Dante, you know, however you want to do it. So that must have sounded incredible. Wow. 15 speakers, holy cow. Well, can you imagine though, I didn't do this, but my my manager and my partner Danny, the records that we did, they went to Sony Mastering Labs in New York City. And no, I understand. I know what you mean. And they were there when Vlado Muller mastered my tunes, and you know the speakers that they had were $100,000 each to listen to. So yeah, the noise canceling ones. Yeah, I know what you mean. Those are fantastic. 500, 600. You know, Betty, you remind me of my brother-in-law, my my oldest younger sister, Janet. Her husband has an extensive collection of vinyl that is actually worth a lot of money. Just incredible stuff, you know. Every Beatles album, every Badfinger album, and you know, goes on from there. But yeah, there's been a resurgence in vinyl because people understand that the bottom end is different. Digitalization, where you take a normal sine wave, digitalization or digitizing takes that sine wave and converts it into steps. And however much resolution you have makes the steps either smaller or larger. Now the thing about CDs is it's 16-bit, 44.1 kilohertz, which we know today. I guess if you're listening on the train on your earbuds, doesn't matter, but for audiophile or archival purposes, no, can't do it. So like I'm recording at 24 and 48 kilohertz, but the modern interfaces, like, you know, you would use like for a desk to go to say, for example, Reaper, you want to run like 96 or 192 kilohertz where the steps are really extremely small. The only problem with that is you have so much resolution that you start going into the RF range, when you're above the range of hearing, even though you can't hear it, you're passing frequencies that cause intermodulation distortion between, you know, it and the frequencies that you can hear. So, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, not that I look for, but I know that people do that. Grady and I, years ago, we used to actually take these old consoles. This console, if you power it up, the software, it runs across here, it says the software in the computer, and it says that the software is dated 1997. That's the age of this console. That's also why you want it. I mean, the equalization on this thing is just, when you start cranking, equalization is nothing more than a tone control. I mean, you start, it's divided into 4 bands, sweepable with variable Q on the middle 2 bands. And I got to tell you, the bottom end on this desk it's outrageous. And so what Grady and I used to do was we would recap, that in other words, we would replace all the capacitors, and we would replace them with newer versions of the operational amps, the ICs, because they all have, you know, they're solid state ICs. And companies update them. They keep the same pin out, same power supply and everything. They just improve the specifications, right? So you could swap them out. And so Grady and I, he's actually built a career on this. I might actually have Grady come to Taiwan and just recap this thing. Well, all you got to do is flip it up this way, and the bottom pan comes off. It's like 12 screws or something. And they're your individual. These are all individual boards that pop out. There's a board for the fader, there's a board for the channel. And it really would, I mean, you could probably do like 7, 8, or 10 of these a day, and there's only 32. So like in a week, you do the whole thing in the master section, and it would significantly upgrade this. That's what people are doing. They're buying these consoles, you know, used for like maybe $1,500 or $2,000, the Soundcraft Ghost, because it's a 20-year-old console, and then putting like 4,000 into it. So no WD-40, no. You need to use something like this, Contact. In the United States, they have KEG, C-A-I-G. KEG Laboratories makes a whole range of products that actually I built my career on. Kremlin R5, the old one. The new ones are called Deoxit, but this is actually a copy, basically, of KEG. The funny thing is, we're talking about smells. If you spray this, I smell it, it's KEG. It's the same stuff I used to use. No, and use it sparingly. With these consoles, and the way that these particular potentiometers are, you just pop the knob off, and you spray it on the shaft, and just a quick, okay? And then you put the knob back on, and you work it back and forth. Now, the funny thing is, I've gone up through and done about half of these. I don't need all these channels right at the moment. So like if you churn the pan pot on this channel, it's a little tighter than this one over here. This one over here is like loosey-goosey because I sprayed it. Sprayed all these over here. So yeah, it's funny. Hey Andy, wow, nice to see you. It's been a while. Always a pleasure. So yeah, if you put, if you look at the schematic, and because here's the thing about, you know, everybody looks at the console and go, oh my gosh, it's so complicated. No, it's not. It's repetitive channels. This is a channel strip. Okay. So once you learn what everything does on this strip, it's the same for everyone. They're all the same. It's just 32 versions of the same thing. So that means that if you look at the schematic for the channel strip and you find it has 15, 20, 30, whatever capacitors, and you get all their values, that's all you need. Then you just go buy a bag of them. It has been a long time. How you doing, man? How's things in KL? All right. Andy's from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It's been a long time. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, it's worth it to take these old desks. And a lot of guys unplug the computer because we're not using tape machines. But this computer does do SMPTE. That's the SMPTE time code for the Society of Motion Picture Television Engineers, and it also does MIDI. So even there's a jog wheel on it, and there are recalls and you know, presets for like locations. And so they say if you spend the time and you goof around with enough and you have the correct MIDI interface, which I do, you can actually use it to control the DAW. So you can go over here and you can press record. Excellent. You can press record, stop, playback, fast forward, and it just, you know, and you can even, they say you can even arm the tracks, but I don't believe that. So the next thing that you want to do is you want to have a touch screen. This is a touch screen, but you want a touch screen like over the console. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thanks. I've been, you know, taking supplements. And so, and I shaved my mustache. It makes me look a lot younger. I turned 63. And so over here, you know, is where you want your touch screen. And there are a number of alternatives, including the new, well, new to me. They come out with some new products. Slate Raven, which is a touch screen mixing console. And so basically, if you have one of these, and you have a Slate Raven that's running your favorite DAW, there's nothing you can't do. It's just a matter of outboard gear and plugins and stuff. So that's what we're looking at. Now the cool thing is, I was specifying some equipment for a console in 2016, and the consultant suggested that I spend $250,000 on an API Vision console. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I thought you just said $500,000. Yeah. No. Don't need it. Because the thing is the DAW has the automation. And if you have a touch screen, then you got both worlds. It's not exactly like touching a 100mm smooth fader, but you got your finger, you know, it's a 10-point touch. And the truth is, when you're doing a mix, you're usually only operating one or two faders at one time as you're adjusting things and getting them closer and closer and closer to the perfection that you want. Now, not now, I'm not sure when, but sometime in the future, we can do a live streaming mixing session. You see other guys probably do this, but there aren't too many guys my age doing it, you know, that have come from the old days. Just to give you an idea, if you've seen that movie Bohemian Rhapsody, you know, the new Queen movie, the scene where they're recording Bohemian Rhapsody, the song, and Brian May's doing the guitar solo, they cut to the machine. It's a 3mm79. I did like half my records on it. If you go to mjk.asia, probably 50% of the songs in that website were done on a 3mm79. So that's where I come from. That's, you know, that's where I live. And it took me, not because I'm not capable of understanding it. No. Old people today are not the same as old people 25, 30, 40 years ago. I'm 63. If I was born in, you know, 1940 or 1930, it would be a whole different situation. So yeah, I gotta look at this thing again. So yeah, all I'm saying is, when I was a kid, you know, guys who were my father's age were old. Now I'm 63, and those of you who are my followers and who know me, if I told you that I was going to go skydiving tomorrow, there isn't a single person watching me right now that would say, "But MJ, you're too old for that." But back in my father's day, are you kidding me? They'd lock you up for that. No, we're going to have you committed. No, you can't go skydiving. No. So it's a whole different thing. It's not that I'm not capable of doing it. I didn't want to have to learn the interface. See, here's the thing about working with a console. Kick drum's mushy. Right here. It's this knob right here. I need more send in my headphones. It's this knob right here. Level's too hot. Do you see what I'm saying? This kind of ear-eye-hand coordination takes years of experience to develop. But once you develop it, it makes life so much easier. And everything's like that. Every crafts person is like that. You know which tool to grab. This thing here, okay, kick drum's mushy. There's no knobs. Whoops, sorry, I kicked my tripod. There's no knobs. There's no knobs. Here's my mouse. Where's the EQ knob? Yeah, that's the issue. And so you have to learn the interface. So that's what. Well, we need good music. So we got. There's plenty of music today, but yeah, we need good music. But anyway, so yeah, what I'm saying is, we're learning now. You know, the DAW revolution, as they call it, is here. It's been here for 15 years. But a lot of the old cats are mixing what they call it half in and half out of the box. And this is called hybrid mixing and hybrid engineering. And that's the way to go, in my opinion. That's the way to go. And the console also allows you to insert outboard equipment, real outboard equipment, as opposed to plugins. Plugins are okay, but they're digital recreations. And the funny thing is most of those digital recreations of the vintage equipment I used to use. I know it very well, and I would prefer to have a rack of it. So anyway, that's what I'm gonna be doing. I'm putting together, you know, the business plan and so forth to do this, and well, we'll see what happens. At any rate, I am able to cut new tracks for new tunes, and I'm as a producer and engineer, you know, from the 80s and 90s, I'm very, very happy with what I'm coming up with for tracks. So yeah, there you go. That sounds good. So anyway, listen, I want to say this from the outset. I hate birthdays. I haven't celebrated a birthday in, I don't know, 30 years, 40 years, I can't remember. I don't wish people happy birthday because I don't wish bad things on people because I don't like them. Yesterday was my birthday. Don't wish me happy birthday. Please do not say happy birthday. I hate it. Brad Delp committed suicide on my birthday. I know he didn't mean to do it. But it was 12 years ago, and he was very influential on me as a young man. I met him when I was 21, and I met he and Tom Schultz for the first time when I was 21, and they were both influential on my decision to go to Boston and pursue a recording career, and I was there for like, I don't know, less than a year. Thank you, Mike. And I got my first contract with a studio, and you know, and I got into the recording engineering community. So, no, they're not. They're not. And so, yeah, March 9 is a bad day for me. And I was crying yesterday. Sit up in my bed, and I was thinking, you know, see, people don't know, Brad was not a rock star. He was as down to earth as you and I. He was absolutely incredible. If you ask somebody like Charlie Farron, another friend of mine from Boston way back, you know, lead singer for the Joe Perry Project and Fahrenheit, who was a lot closer to Brad. I only met Brad once. He was actually close friends with Brad. I mean, he was the nicest person. And he wouldn't talk about himself. He only wanted to know, like, hey, what's up with you? What are you doing? And things, you know? And that's how the conversation was that I had with him. He spent 2 hours with me. He found out that I was playing in a local band, and he got a pencil and paper And he gave me his home address. This is a rock star. This was in Boston's first tour, the second to last night of their first American tour. And the lead singer, Brad Delp, gave me his home address. And he said to me, whatever you send to me, I will hand carry over to the president of Epic Records. I still remember him doing that. He was incredible. And you don't know how good he was as a singer, because I talked to him after the show. He's played an hour and a half something set, and he wasn't even like tired. He wasn't hoarse, you know. Well, thanks, CJ. I appreciate it, man. Thanks. I appreciate that. No, I couldn't. I personally don't have enough on Boston history. I mean, I could write about the history of, you know, Boston music, you know, from my viewpoint as a recording artist, as a producer and an engineer. I mean, there used to be a magazine called Beat, B-E-A-T, Beat magazine, put out by one of the major newspapers, I forget. And every week they had, it was all about music, and every week they would have a section about what was going on in the recording studio. So every week I got a call from their reporter, hey, what's going on this week? What are you guys working on? And I tell them what, you know, we got in the studio and stuff, and it was cool. We had a lot of interesting sessions. I was very fortunate. I maybe have said this before, and if I have, I apologize, but years later, I was in the basement of my house looking at, you know, boxes of junk like we all have, right? And I found my appointment book from 1986, and I said, wow, this is cool. And I sat down and I read it, and I was astonished. I had recorded 40 bands in 1986, 40. Now, nobody does one song. All those bands, I mean, the vast majority of those bands did 2 songs. That would have been 80 songs. And some of them did 4, like an EP. And I remember there's at least 3 albums. So my goodness, I mean, I recorded over 100 songs. And each song, it's not like you sit down and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, pow. One song might take 5, might take 10 sessions. Each session might be 8 hours long. I mean, I lived, basically 1986 was the year I lived in the studio. And that wasn't my big year, because I made a mixtape called The Best of 1985, which I thought was my best year. And apparently 1985 was even greater than 1986. But I didn't have, you know, the appointment book. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I did an album for a band called Prowler, who was astonishingly good. One of the guitarists turned 16 during the session, and their singer was really great. And I heard they got a record deal, changed their name, and became somebody. I don't know who they are now. I have no idea. See, after that, I got very sick. I got ill. I got those migraine headaches for 5 years. I dropped out. I didn't know anything happened. Craig Ferguson and many other artists approached me about doing album work and stuff, and I couldn't do it. Paul Klein, whose wife is Tina Banyan, a famous singer. I mean, all these people that I couldn't do it. So I dropped out. And when I woke up again, 5 years later, finally I could work again. It was all gone. It completely changed. Now, Andy was asking me about instruments. No, everything today is VST, virtual studio technology. People doing beat music. This is the problem, and I'm going to come out and say it. You know, where are the Smokey Robinsons? Where are those people today? I don't know. There are a lot of people doing looping, beat music, you know. Yep, it is. But the other thing too is because there was no working health care. I didn't get the health care I had. And Apparently a phenylketonuria and didn't know it. I'm allergic to phenylalanine, and I was drinking diet soda, so I don't know. Yeah. So what people are doing now is they're doing looping, EDM looping. And so it's all done with a mouse. It's done in the DAW. There's very little playing. It's virtual instruments. So what we used to say back then is even more relevant, you know, right, Where the Smokey Robinson, even more relevant today. Can you sing? Can you sing? Can you play? Because I'm going to tell you something. You know, these kids doing the EDM, right? Can they just go, well, I'm not like this. I'm really kind of shy. But I get this feeling whenever you walk by. Can you sing? Can you play? Well, looping's not cheating. It's just not creative, you know? And so if you look at like some of these channels that talk about, no, of course they can't, that talk about how on the some of the forums about how they had to like use the DAW and I had to auto-correct, you know, the vocals. Go to mjk.asia. None of those vocals that I did, you know, the 9, the 12, the 20 tracks of vocals, none of them are auto-tuned. Listen to the end of Gotta Keep Dancing where I sing like on the high E string, the A fret. You know, that's two A's over middle C. I'd do that take about 10 times to get it. What I'm trying to say is that, yeah, well, thanks. That's what I do, man. That's what I'm known for. It's not a big deal. I'm just saying that on one of the forums, a guy was saying how he had to tweak, you know, the vocal. And I said, well, why didn't you just run it back and tell the singer to sing it properly? Well, that's what we did. We didn't like, oh, put it on another track. Nuh-uh. No. Run it back. I'm going to punch in. What I would do is I would do a take with the tape running just for fun. In case I wanted to hear it. I would do a take. I would sing the whole song. Get my headphones on. What I would do is put the mic in front of me, one can on, one can off so I could hear the room. And I usually put my hand like this or like this, so it would reflect my voice into my ear, so I got the direct sound from my voice, and I got the playback of the track in my ear with the mic in front of me. And so I would be singing like this. I'd do one track to warm up. Let's run it back. You want to hear that? No, it's junk. I would do 2 or 3 times getting warmed up. I would get into it. And then I'd say, what do you think? And this is my partner I've known a long time. That's pretty good. It's got some good lines on it. Okay, let's take it line by line, and we take it line by line. So go to the first line. What do you think? Let's keep it for now. Let's go to the second line. No, let's punch that. I don't like how I did that. Punch that. And we would just do what you always do, just narrow it down. But we didn't keep junk. And the other thing that we did not do, which the DAW allows you to do extremely easily, is polish turds. You can't polish a turd. You flush a turd. And in the recording business, the way you flush a turd is by pressing the record button. And so that's what we did. We flushed all the turds. And so we would work and it wasn't digital editing. It was on a 2-inch tape machine, punching in, and that's how we did it. And I did all the, yeah, I know, that's the other thing too. You know, you would see people live and they, you know, you guys just heard me. It is midnight. I've been drinking, guitar's out of tune, and I sang in tune. I didn't go off because I got an ear. When I used to sing live, I had a big problem. People used to accuse me of being on tape. I played a show one time, and there's one song that I have. Go to mjk.asia. It's called I Don't Want to Say Goodnight. It's fully orchestrated. It's a big production tune. Well, I am a pro, thank you. But I am, that's right, thank you. So it's no big deal. It's not even anything more than what it should be. That's all. Nothing special. So I don't want to say goodnight. It's a big production. I sang 15 background vocals, 5 tracks, 3 times, triple track like Queen. It's a big production. In my live show band, I had 9 people. I used to do a version of I Don't Want to Say Goodnight, because in the studio what we did was we did a mix and then we killed the lead vocal and did another mix. So it's called MMV, Music Minus Vocal. So I had this big, beautiful Music Minus Vocal on a DAT, the digital audio tape. Beautiful, you know, full fidelity, and a tape player, right? So there you go. Thanks, Betty. We had a DAT machine at the mixing desk. And so there's a part of the show where the stage went dark, spotlight came on, MJ came out, and I sang the song by myself with this big orchestra and stuff that wasn't there. So our sound guy, Fred, was telling me a story that after the show, he said some people were kind of like heckling him at the mixing desk. And I said, why? And he said, well, they thought that the whole show was on tape. I said, oh, I see, because they saw the DAT machine there, right? And so the people came down to me later. Excuse me. Oh, yeah, thank you, thank you. No. Scriptures say not to think more of yourself than is necessary, but thank you, I appreciate it. Well, these people came down and talked to me, and, you know, they could tell by talking with me that I wasn't lining things. And I told them, I said, no, and one of the guys actually, like, put his arms around me and hugged me and put his head on my shoulder and said, I'm so sorry, man. I didn't know, you know, he was really apologetic, but they thought that I was on tape. And that was a big problem, because I would come out and sound just like I did on the records. The other thing we did, too, is we were, at that time, pioneering electronic drums. My business partner, Danny, had the Drum Cat, which is a MIDI controller. We were using, and we're talking about like the late 80s, mid 80s, we're using, you know, the MIDI controller with sound modules, but we were doing that live. And the cool part about it is he would build kits. Now, he had a foot switch, and he would tap a pad on the Drum Cat drum pad and switch kits. And it was the same kit we had on the record. See, the problem is with the acoustic drums, it's the same drum sound the whole night. Yeah, they can goof around with the EQ a little bit, but they can't really do a complete change of drums, right? And you see this all the time. You see a show with a band, and it doesn't quite sound like the record because the drums are the same all the way through. Yeah, well, he's got this little thing in front of him, and he had a clear plexiglass thing around with you know, LED lights and the MJK logo and stuff. It was like very, very, very cutting edge for the 90s. And, you know, real symbols, of course. And we like Gotta Keep Dancing. If you go to mjk.com, it's the second song. It has a very pronounced kit with a flanged snare drum. Well, that was in the MIDI kit. And so you just tap the foot switch, boom, hit the drumstick on the pad, and he's on that drum kit. And that's why people thought we were on digital. But Andy was talking about these instruments and things. It's like, you know, people really aren't playing it. They're playing the computer. So, you know, hard as a brick. I don't know what that means, man. I don't know what that means, but I'll take it as a compliment, so. Anyway. The thing that's bad is that I'm doing this again. But I'm really too old. I mean, this is where most people quit. I'm really too old to be doing this, but I still got some, you know, gas left. And it's like, is it really? I don't know. I don't know how long it is. But, you know, the point is, because of the record industry, because of the way things are, the public has been deprived of my music because I quit. Somebody from one of the major record labels told me in 1997, they told my personal manager that the best thing that could happen for my career was for me to get addicted to heroin. I had an immediate band meeting and I said, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to associate with those kinds of people because I had opportunities to sing and work with drug addicts and drug people, there's all over the place. And I didn't do it. One more story. Oh no, he's right. Oh, one more story. Guy came in the studio one time. Well, that's kind of how I look at it. I appreciate it, Betty. That's kind of, how I look at it. And like I said, if I can pick up the guitar and sit here and sing in tune, that's good. But I need you to tell me when it's time to quit. Because my mom was a pro singer. And she never listened when it was time to quit. And she sang beyond the point when it was time to quit. And it was very humiliating for her. So she would go someplace and it was terrible. So, no, but it's typical. It's typical. I was in the studio one time and a guy came in, sharp guy, sharp businessman. And he said, I got a kid. I'm backing him, financially backing him. And he said, he's really good, and we want you to do an album. And I said, okay. Well, thanks, Betty. And so, I said, okay, so like, the kid's got like record company interest. Oh yeah, they're really interested in him and stuff like that. So I said, okay. So I gave him, the record industry rate. He's not like somebody from the neighborhood coming in is doing, this is like, okay, so he's got corporate backing, so I charge him the corporate rate, right? And he comes in and he's got a keyboard. And so the API console that we had on the side of it about my mom. Oh, yeah. Oh, I see. Okay. You mean that my mom was a professional singer? Okay. Okay, yeah. It runs in the family. And my kid, Phoenix, I got to tell you something. I know all parents are proud of their children and stuff, but I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, and I think you believe me that I know what I'm talking about. Phoenix has it. Her hearing, her pitch. She's 6 years old and she's already trying to develop vibrato in her voice. I got to start training her soon. She will sing a song. She'll go, Papa, I want to sing. And she's in the car and she'll go, row, row, row your boat, blah, 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 right? And so whenever people sing like that, their pitch usually goes off. But at the end, she'll be like, merrily, 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 merrily. She'll be right on the same key, right? Thank you, Betty. And even if she strays off a little bit, she always ends up in the right note. And then she'll go talk about something else. Papa, tell me some stories about when you were a little kid. So like 15 minutes later, Papa, I want to sing again. What do you want to sing? I want to sing Row, Row, Row Your Boat again. Now I want you to sing with me. Okay. And she'll go, row, row, row your boat on the same pitch. That's my kid. It's amazing. Anyway, so we'll go back. I remember the guy's name. This young man's name was Danny. That's all I can tell you. And he came in, and I don't want to say anything negative or actionable. I'm just going to tell you the truth. He came in with a keyboard, and so the mixing console that we had in Fleetwood was, I think that's what I'm saying, had a producer's desk on the end of it. On that side is a flat area where a producer could come in, with paper and pencil and stuff and do whatever they wanted to do. Sorry, I missed that. So I don't know who, I'm sorry, I don't know who John Prine is, but I'm not a music consumer. And, I know a lot of people in the industry. I mean, the people that I know personally are the ones that I know. I really don't know that many recording artists. Like this every day, there's bands. People talk about bands. I never heard of it. I never heard of any of them. I don't know these people. So sorry about that. So Danny came in and he sat the producer's desk on the side is a nice big area where he can put his coffee or he or she and put a keyboard or a notebook computer or whatever piece and they can run the session from the producer's desk. So I said, just set your keyboard down on the producer's desk. And so, I'm like, okay, so what do I want to do? And I got the track sheets out, you know, track sheet is you know, what you use to document what you know, what you're going to do with everything on the song. And so I said, well, you know, how many outputs do you want on you know, on the keyboard? I didn't really look at it. I didn't know what it had. And he says, well, I just got, you know, left and right. So okay, so I pop them into 2 tracks. So we got a 24 track machine, so I like them on 2 tracks. Okay, what's the name of the song? Whatever it is. Okay, so it's like, you know, blah 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 blah. Take 1, and we run it, and he presses the button, and meters are going. And I'm kind of like, look at this kid. I'm like, all it was, and this is such a cliche, they're samples. And you know, James Brown, of course, is, they say, the most sampled recording artist in history, right? Well, these were all James Brown samples. Every single one. James Brown. Over a drum beat. So you got like and that's all it was. It was like he had like dropped the needle on his turntable, used the key, because the keyboard is a sampler, and sampled all the stuff and had edited it together. And he had 5 songs, and he had not actually played a single note on the keyboard. It was a drum loop with samples he dropped over it. And I'm thinking, this kid's got like record company interest, okay? And this big backer. Okay, all right, so rewind. Got any other stuff? We're going to overdub? Going to overdub some, I don't know, horn parts, string parts, anything? No, that's it. We're all done. What happens next? Well, tomorrow the rapper's coming in. Oh, okay. So, I got 2 tracks here. And so the rapper's coming in tomorrow. So we got 3 tracks. Okay. Well, you know, I got 21 tracks left. Okay, because I got 3 tracks. And the rapper came in, and he was terrible. Absolutely horrible. And so, of course, nothing ever happened. Except MJ got paid. And that, Andy, is kind of what's going on today. I mean, it's been going on since day one. And you guys have heard the story I've told a million times about the guy that came in our studio and asked us if we could tell him whether he sang or not. But, yeah. It's just... I've had my fill of this stuff, you know, and it's just, it's over, it never ends, so, yeah, why not? Exactly, why not? I mean, I did what I was supposed to do, but would you guys like to hear, usually, instruments, not microphones, instruments, you do what's called submixing with things, but yeah, you keep the instrumentation on separate tracks so you have control of it in the mixdown later, yeah. But the tracks may actually be a combination of several microphones to get a composite sound, you know what I mean? But usually, like for example, with Queen, they usually had 3 tracks for bass. They would have the DI, which is called the direct inject. They would have like John Deacon would plug his bass into a box, and then from the box it would go to the amp. So the box had its own output that would go direct to the console. And then they would have another track where they would have one microphone placed in one spot, and then they would have another microphone placed in another spot. And what Roy Thomas Baker used to try to do was try to, you know, mix between them to get a perfect balance. I have a very, very good example of that on the DP32 of guitar tracks that I've done. I have composite guitar tracks. I have 2 stereo tracks, left and right, and each track contains 4 guitars, so it's a total of 8 guitars. And each set of stereo tracks by themselves don't sound full enough, so you need both of them matched together, and we can talk about that. But I would like to tell you guys one more story before we go, because I know it's getting late. Do you mind if I tell you about the worst session I ever had to record? Would that be okay? I'll tell you about the worst recording session that I ever had to record. I had the pleasure of working with Bill Ferruzzi when I was a young man. Bill Ferruzzi, he's passed away now. He's the only engineer in New England who ever worked with the Beatles. When the Beatles came to America, they played in Revere, Mass. At the Wonderland racetrack. I think that was 64 or maybe 65. I don't remember. At one time I knew, but Bill mixed them. And Bill actually, the funny thing is, Bill had at home his own collection of gear that would rival any museum, and he showed me this green panel Altic Lansing tube mixer with rotary dials on it, no faders, that he used to mix the Beatles live show at Wonderland Park. And it was like the slates, you know, that the 10 Commandments were written on. You know, they were like glowing. They should have been in a golden box. Okay. Anyway. So Bill said, Bill didn't work on Saturday. Bill used to do all the music stuff back in the 50s and 60s. Bill actually engineered Psychotic Reaction, if you guys know that tune, at Ace Studio. He designed and built Ace. They used to call it Ace is the Place. Anyway, so he went on to work with, to design the room at Fleetwood, which we worked at and stuff. If you go to mjk.asia, the studio shots are from Fleetwood, where Bill used to work. So Bill was like my age back then when I was in my 30s. And there was a session that he was working on during the week, and I came in on Saturday. And Bill talked to me on the phone. He says, he wants you to... I'm turning it over to you. It's a Star Search audition. Remember that show? So I got to read this here, huh? Oh, it could be. Could very well be. It was a Star Search audition tape, okay? And so Bill said, yeah, I worked on it. He's not happy, and he wants to come in tomorrow. And so it's all yours. I said, okay. So I showed up on Saturday. And this guy came in, and it's his girlfriend. And he's the money guy, and he's paying for the session. And my friend Joe Deegan, who's a video guy, was there with me. Joe was cool. Joe, usually video guys don't like audio, but Joe hung around me because he wanted to learn more about audio to make his video productions better, which is really cool. And his company hired me a couple of times as an audio consultant on some of their video shoots. And we did do a music video at Fleetwood because it was a huge studio. It's another story. They laid Gobi tracks down. It's pretty cool. Anyway, so Joe was there today. Joe was hanging out, and I asked the guy, I said, you know, well, how much you want to dump into this? I mean, it doesn't sound very good. And he said, do whatever it takes. I said, all right. This girl was horrible. First of all, I'm going to say this, and I don't mean to be mean or disrespectful, but you have to be careful if you have a regional accent. And this is true for actors, too. You can have, a country accent if you're singing a country song, but you can't have a Boston accent. You know what I'm saying? You can't say like, I don't know where the keys to the car is. No, it doesn't cut it. This girl was singing that song. I forget the name of it. Don't Cry Out Loud or something. And it's like on the wire. And she couldn't say wire. She kept saying why ye, on the why ye. And you know there isn't any piece of audio equipment in the world that can fix that. And I tried to, outside of just going out in the studio and telling her, will you stop talking like a baby? Will you talk like an adult and pronounce your R's and things? It was ridiculous. And so I ended up, one of the techniques that you can do is to double the tracks. If you have the person sing it 1, 2, 3, and 4 times together, and it sounds like it gets thicker, and if they're good and it matches, like Brad Delp was good. All the stuff that Brad Delp did was doubled. A lot of the Beatles stuff did was doubled. They're good. They're good singers. She wasn't. So I doubled it, and there's a lot of timing errors and stuff. So I was doing, without automation, I'm doing a lot of this, to try to. 5 hours later, the turd is a little shinier, but not much. And I had practically every patch cable in the studio patched in the patch bay, and every piece of outboard gear, every reverb, every digital delay, every noise gate, every EQ, everything the Eventide harmonizer for pitch correction, everything I could think in my whole toolkit was patched in, and it was just out of, hey Sue, how you doing? It was just, I was out of control. Yes, of course I remember ABBA. They're incredible, of course. I had something that was barely passable. And he had the nerve to complain to the owner of the studio about how long it took. And I'm glad that my friend Joe was there. I'm doing great, Sue. Thanks so much for joining. Late to the party, but we're glad to have you with us. And, my friend Joe actually spoke up for me to the owner, Jerry, and he said, no, I was there. I heard him. He said, do whatever it takes. And he watched me, and, this is what I'm saying about turd polishing. See, I used to appreciate it when I was young, when an older guy would come to me and say, this isn't really what you should be doing. You need to be doing something else. Oh, I see. Thank you. You prevented me from going down the wrong road and wasting all my time, so. Thank you, Sue. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Big hug. Very nice of you to say that. And the thing is people don't do that today, because with snowflakes, you can't go out and tell somebody you can't sing. You can't go out and somebody say, well, maybe, you should think about another career. And they waste their time. They waste their energy, their life, and they end up disappointed, and sometimes they end up suicidal or, alcoholics or whatever. And it's just, I think it was, thank you. I think it was my duty. And I remember there were times when I felt bad. I remember a guy named Ricky Galusha in Revere sent me a tape. I didn't know the guy. I don't know how he knew me. He probably, saw my name in the industry magazines. And he sent me a tape. And he spent a lot of time, making like a ghetto blaster, and the tunes were all they were all the same meter and the same, kind of general. There wasn't much differentiation between the tunes, and within each tune there wasn't much differentiation between the verse and the chorus. It would require a lot of work. And at that time I was very, very busy. He wrote me a really nice handwritten letter. He asked me, he said, what, and he even addressed me by name on the tape as I was listening to it, and so, yeah, exactly. And so, usually Sunday night and Thursday night, usually, as as it stands right now. And I mean, I called the guy back and I told him flat out, very honestly, I was polite, and I said, Bricky, I really don't see much, you know, commercial value in these tunes. And I'm being honest with you. I'm sorry, but you know, I'm not going to lie to you, and it won't do you any good if I lie to you. You know, you're never going to improve if you don't. And he said, okay. He took it really well. I said, thank you, and that was it. And I realized now, I probably should have given him more encouragement, but I'm older now and I understand those things, you know. Dynamic range is very important. That's a very, very hot topic right now, and the loudness wars and so forth. And the loudness wars existed back then. But you listen to my songs on MJK.Asia, and they're really loud because Vlado knows what he's doing. But, you know, I mean, young men are not as compassionate and know things like that as older men. And now I would have approached it differently. I would have commended him, then given him some kind of counsel and direction, and I would have encouraged him more to continue. And I feel bad. I think maybe I squashed this guy's, you know, but I was really busy. Remember I told you in 1986 I recorded 40 bands, and I did listen to it. I put the tape in the tape machine, in the studio, in the control room, and listened to it on the monitors. And I think I had Danny and probably Jerry there too when we were talking about it. The guy wasn't bad. He just didn't know really how to write songs and write song structure, and I didn't have the time to teach him, and he probably didn't have the money to afford, you know, and I got to work to pay me to do it. So anyway, yeah, it's about regrets too, you know. It's a tough business. You know, even Brian May, right? He wrote this song in 1995. It's a hard business to make it on your own, you know. That's a great tune, by the way. So I have yacked far too long and maybe revealed far too much, more things than I probably should. I think it's time to end. I want to thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. Well, thank you. Thank you. It's been fun. I don't get a chance to talk about this too much, you know. I had a bad day yesterday, and I appreciate my personal friends who helped me out. But please visit my Please visit my sponsor on ivideo.com.tw. Thank you. If you are interested in traveling many countries around the world, they even have a single. Thank you, man. Love you too, bro. Thank you. Sorry, Sue. Yes, thanks, Andy. Thanks for joining. They actually have a worldwide SIM card too. So if you're traveling, no matter where you go, it is a tough business. It's a ruthless business, you know. But the great part about it is we can bypass much of the business now, and we can work directly. And through media like this, I can interact directly with people, directly with my fans. I'm blessed. I can't believe I'm 63 years old. I can't believe I got people watching me and listening to me. I can't believe it. I feel blessed. I feel that the Creator has been very, very good to me and my family. So, well, thanks, Casper. Thanks, Casper. I have a new tune, Casper, that I think is like so high above everything else I've ever written. It's amazing. And I'll give you, I can do that. Street Player, I can definitely give you advice on that. But I will tell you that some of the advice might come from the scriptures, if you don't mind that. I personally find a great deal, especially the Proverbs. I mean, Solomon was the wisest man in the world, and I have derived a great deal of wisdom from that source. So, but yeah, we can definitely talk about that. Regrets are something that everyone feels because we're all imperfect. We fall short of the mark of perfection. We all do. Every single person. And so you have to look back, and let me just say this before I leave. The hardest person to forgive is you. I know many people that struggle with forgiving themselves for things. Thank you very much, Coco. Gosh, I wish I'd seen you earlier. We were missing you tonight. Thanks for joining. When you seek redemption and forgiveness, and you go through the process, often it involves an apology, maybe retributions to a person who's been hurt. Hopefully that person is a fellow Christian and has brotherly love and can accept your apology, and it's okay. It's hard to forgive yourself. Sometimes we are so hard on ourselves. Why did I do that? I must have been out of my mind. I must have been crazy. Why did I treat that person so bad? There is a positive side to that. Your conscience is telling you that you did something wrong. That is a good thing. It allows us to reflect on that and meditate on that. Why did we do that? It's a good thing to meditate on that. Why did we do that? Analyze that. But then once the analysis is done and you have come to the conclusion and you realize that that was wrong and you have the resolve to never do that again, that is when you have achieved repentance. And that's when you deserve to forgive yourself. It's not easy. It's always easier to forgive others. It's not easy to forgive ourselves. But if we are forgiven, then we have to forget it. All right. Sorry to get so heavy on you guys. Take care. Thanks for listening. We'll appreciate it.